What's going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 4 prop stream for the Genesis Scottish Open. Gonna get you guys ready for all of your exposure. We'll go through some stat averages, weather for tomorrow, also some props on Underdog and Prize Picks, and matchups on the sports books to cap it off. But anything on top of that you guys are curious about, feel free to go ahead and let me know in the chat. And even if you don't have any props you want me to deep dive, don't be shy about saying hi either. But outside of that, the only other thing I need you guys to do is to smash that like button if you guys haven't already. And let's get this thing started. So we got rushing yard down there. I appreciate the kind words in chat. And the question, we'll get to that a little bit later on. We got Ernie Blue down there as well, who's maybe not making it to the live chat portion, but was clutch and able to get a comment down there regardless. So help and boost the algorithm. I appreciate that. And he has a few notes for us. And by the way, Ernie, guys, very sharp. So take these seriously, I would say. He said Penge might struggle. Yeah, I think the pressure could get to him a bit. He said Tom Kim's hitting it well. I'm 100% with you on that one. And then you said also Clark will struggle and then Fitz might win. I'm not against you on any of those. I think Clark, he was a little putter dependent today. Fitz also, I have an outright bet on that as well. Let's get after it. And it looks like this guy in the chat wants to be a negative Nancy, so let's just ban him and send him on his way. We got Nick down there, Phil as well. Penge did have that clutch bogey on 18. And what's going on, Christian? Hopefully you're having a fantastic night. But let's get this thing started. So we got ourselves some stat averages, and you can see it played a little bit harder than the first few days, which with the win they were projecting was, I think, within the range of outcomes, but the pin locations were much dicier than what we had before. So the bogey average went up about 0.5 compared to round 2, and the birdie average also went down quite a bit. Now, the round 4 setup isn't going to be that much easier. In fact, I think that there are quite a few harder pin locations in the mix, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be like as hard as today because the winds were really kicking in the afternoon, and tomorrow it's capping off at about 12 miles an hour. So I personally think the scoring is going to be closer to even par. Birdie average maybe closer to 3.5 per round. Bogey average also probably going to go down a little bit as well, but I think it'll probably still be at like 3.25 to 3.3 per round. And the birdie average I have in like the 3.4 to 3.5 range. So gives you guys an idea of exactly where the field might be coming in. And we're also going to go through some pin locations and the weather on top of that to further give you guys an idea of why I'm giving those averages. But the fairway average was about 6 per round. That'll probably go up just a little bit, maybe like the 6.2 per round or so that we had for rounds 1 and 2. And then the green average was 11.66. In round 2, it was 12.5. Round 1, it was 11.8. So I personally think it's probably going to be split down the middle, probably close to like 11.8 to 12 per round. But also, I don't think it's going to be as low as what it was for round 3. So slightly easier scoring averages across the board, but you'll see why here in just a second. So with the weather to start, the winds aren't going to be nearly as gnarly, and they're also going off at the perfect part of the day. So because of the fog in the morning, there's not going to be like early tee times. We have guys going off closer to 10 a.m., so it's going to be a little warmer then. Also, the winds aren't going to be nearly as drastic as what they were today, both from the sustained and the wind gust perspective. So that's why I think the scoring could get a half a stroke easier right there. Then on top of that, you have these pin locations, which in a few cases are dicey, like 18 is brutal. I'll actually want to show you guys the sloping at 18, but it's at the worst possible location. It's kind of similar to round 2 in that aspect where they had it in the back left corner. But then at the same time, holes like 5 are extremely straightforward pin locations. 10 is also pretty straightforward too. It's the 16's a par 5. That's the easiest pin location by far that you get at 16. There's enough easier ones that compensate for it where I don't think it's like a super hard Sunday setup. So another harder one, by the way, would be hole 3. I'll show you guys the sloping there as well. It's just on top of a little shelf, also a bunker to the right that you can short side yourself in, which would be kind of dicey. But then you have holes like 6 where you don't want to miss left to 6. That would be absolutely terrible. terrible, but it's a short par 3 to begin with, only about 125, 130 yards, and it's towards the front side of that green. So you're talking about a wedge shot into that kind of green complex. Let's see, what else was easy? 9's a little bit easier than today. 9 was in the very back right corner for round 3. So I think the pin locations, I don't think it's a drastic difference from round 3 to round 4, but overall, you're talking about maybe another quarter of a stroke difference right here. So I think today is going to end up being the hardest day out of the 4. And it wasn't just the wind. Something that they didn't really talk about beforehand or the weather forecast didn't account for is you had some mist that came through around midday as well, some rain. The air got a lot cooler, also heavier, and you saw players really struggling to account for it. Tomorrow, it doesn't look like anything like that's going to happen. It looks much more flat, and they're starting later because of that fog that's supposed to come through in the morning after all of that dries out. So, or at least most of it should be dried out by the time that they're teeing off, and not going to have that same negative effect that it had for today. So at the bottom, you guys can see the averages for the Live Golf event there. Played over par just like round 1. Not as much over par though. Round 1, it played like 1.5 over. Round 2, 0.6 over par. Birdie average, though, this is an extremely difficult course that they have at Valderrama, was just under 3 per round, which is one of the lower birdie averages that you'll ever see on the Live Tour. It's normally set up easier than what you have for the PGA Tour and DP World Tour, but this golf course doesn't really matter how you're setting it up. It's going to be extremely difficult. So that being said, I also want to show you guys the sloping on a few of those holes. So just 1 second while I bring up the leaderboard and we can go through the shot tracker. But as you'll see, hole 3 and 18 are really the two that I want to point out. 3 is borderline unfair. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of birdies at that par 5. So let me just show you that one. And these are probably the 2 hardest pins on the golf course when I was going through them before. Let's click green so I can show you guys the sloping. It's in this very back left peninsula. So if we go back to the tee sheet, you'll see right here, right, 5 paces from this little pot bunker on the right. Well, there's a 5 pace wide little like landing strip here. So if it's 5 paces from this spot right here, then it's as close to this slope as you can possibly get without going down the slope. So if you end up short siding yourself over here, it's like an impossible up and down. And then even if you miss to the left side over here, it is going to be a very dicey chip to get it up on that right tier. So I think 3, maybe a slightly lower birdie rate there. Maybe not even slightly. It might be like a 20% lower birdie rate. Could be pretty significant. And then finally, 18 is in this back left corner. It was a back right today. It was back left round 2, but round 2 was over here. It was like in the broadside of this back left corner. Now, if we go to the pin sheet, what you'll see at 18 is that it is much closer to the slope. And the slope that I'm talking about is this false front throughout the middle of the green. So not only is it up on that top shelf, but it's also really close to it where those chip shots, just like at 3, when you have that slope really close to the pin, it makes getting up and down to it an absolute nightmare. So it does feel like they're trying to manufacture some difficulty on a hole like that. But like, just to show you what 6 looks like, maybe you guys aren't as familiar with the course as others. It is a new one, so I couldn't blame you for that. But look at this. It was 150 yards to the back. Now it's a front pin. So that's like 120 yards, and it's about where my cursor is now. Now, it's a pretty narrow landing area. You can see that there's slope to the left and a little bit of slope to the right, but you're going to see a ton of birdies when players have a 120-yard club in. And yeah, if they miss, they might have to get up and down, make a bogey, that kind of thing. But you're going to have players hitting it to 5 to 10 feet all day when they have that short of a club in. And just to show you guys a few others, like 10, that's a par 5. It's on the middle right side of the screen. It's about where my cursor is now. It's a shorter shot in, and I would argue a slightly easier up and down. And then 16, that one's also a front pin. So this was a downwind par 5 today, and now it's on the front left corner. So I think some of the scoring holes could be easier on the backside, most notably like 10 and 16. But then you get a couple difficult holes where, you know, if it weren't for holes 3 and like 18, I'd be like, oh, this is moving day setup, right? This is like one of the easier setups that they could possibly have for this golf course. But that's not the case. And a few other ones I want to point out, I guess, would be like 11. So 11's another one that's significantly easier than what you had for today. So today it was in the back right corner, as far back as you could get. Now it's on this front little shelf over here, which you have this false front, which is kind of annoying in front of it, but it's a shorter shot in. You even have a little backstop that you can use if you're hitting something where you're applying spin. And even if you're not using it like to spin down, you can use it to stop your golf ball closer to that hole. And let's see, any other ones that were really notable? Not that I can at least remember. Like, I guess 5. I'll show you guys 5. That's the drivable par 4. So that's why that one's a little bit notable. See a lot of birdies at that hole. Same wind direction, by the way. So they're going to be easily reaching this green off the tee. And it's about where my cursor is now on the right side. So I would say that this pin location is easier than today. It's a shorter shot if you bail out to the right side. And what you saw some people do today, Sam Burns fell victim to this. It was annoying. It's why he pushed rather than going over for me today. A lot of close calls. I had that slip I put out on Twitter, right? Missed by a 0.5 hook. Annoying, but ends up happening. And then the slip we took for the live stream last night sucked. It wasn't even close. So that one I'm not even that salty about, because it's not like they teased us with being like 0.5 away from a full cash. But I had like 4 or 5 other slips that I took. I took a whole bunch today, some that cashed and 4 or 5 that missed by like 0.5 or 1 stroke hooks. So it was a ridiculous day for that. And one of them was Sam Burns, who he almost drove the screen, but he was in this bunker in right up against the side. He literally had to bounce the ball off the side of the bunker to get it further into the bunker so that he could actually hit a shot out. So now that it's over on this right side, the reason why we took that tangent is you don't have to worry about that shit, right? You don't have to hit up this stupid ass pot bunker. Pretty much, if you didn't hit it in the pot bunker, you made birdie at this hole. If you hit it in the pot bunker, it was like 50-50, because even some people that hit it in there had a decent enough lie to get it up and down. On this right side, it's probably going to be like a 70% birdie rate. So that was another one that I thought might be notable to point out. But yeah, like I said, overall, slightly easier scoring conditions. And with that being said, let's talk some props for tomorrow. So we're going to talk them on Prize Picks. I haven't really entered that much on the Underdog side yet. And I do want to see if they have any live golf stuff up, because they didn't have it posted yet. I'm hoping they do, because obviously they have averages to work with. We don't have the suspension of play like we had for round number 2. And as of now, nothing posted for the live golf side. But the averages are on the screen right now if you guys want to look at the board potentially later on. Let's catch up on chat. What's going on? Ali said, been a while since I caught your live. Said, thanks for the hard work. Of course, enjoying a MWND in listening to you. Honestly, don't know what a W or MWND is, but sounds pretty awesome. Anytime you have an acronym for something, it's probably something cool. Do I think the fog's going to soften the course at all? It could. I don't think it's going to have a drastic effect, though. Like maybe just a little bit, but it's not actually going to rain. At least in the forecast that I'm looking at, it doesn't look like it's going to rain. But the humidity in the air will slightly permeate into the soil, but you're not talking about like a downpour changing the effect of the whole golf course or anything like that. What's going on? Getting there. He said, let's build that bankroll for the Open. Yeah, man. Open Championship, by the way, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, going to be absolutely epic at Royal Portrush. It's real links land up there. It's like true like Nordic golf course. So I think that's going to be a fun one. Can I deep dive some rain? You have a top 20 at plus 700. Yeah, I've got a top 20 bet on them too. Similar odds. So I'm hoping that we can cash that kind of bet. And the deep dive is that he played really well today. Obviously surged up the leaderboard, but he's been a little putter dependent this week. So over the 3 rounds, I guess I shouldn't say that. I guess the last couple of days he's been a little putter dependent, but for the event, he's gained almost 7 strokes ball striking. So great stat profile. Normally a much better putter than what you saw for the first day. And that's what happened today, right? He gained 1.2 strokes putting. He does that again and he ball strikes it like he did for the first few rounds. Our top 20 is looking good. So let's see if he can cash it out for us. And he said Midwinter's Night Dram. Still don't know what that is, man. I'm assuming some sort of an IPA, right? Sounds like a beer or something like that. Unfortunately, still water here. I am going out with a few buddies later on, and I'm sure we're going to have some whiskey on the rocks. Hey, it's in Scotland, right? You got to have some whiskey. Scotch, I guess, would be the best way to celebrate, but we're going to do it with some American whiskey. That's what I prefer. So let's talk through the first slip that I entered for tomorrow. So We're going to go through a slip here together to give you guys an idea of how I'm attacking this board. But with conditions maybe getting slightly softer, I've been under on Adam Scott strokes. So he's at 69.5. That is a minus 0.5 projection. That would mean that he has to shoot -1 to cover for us. He did finish second here last year, so I really like that. But with Adam Scott, he's been horrible off the tee for a lot of his rounds here. And even despite that, has still shot even par, -1, -2 rounds every single day. So today, for example, he lost one off the tee, gained 2 strokes on approach. Day before that was a little more consistent. This is the kind of stat profile that I want to see for tomorrow. I want him to be, just kind of solid across the board, gain a stroke to the field for us. Round 1 also was kind of all over the place, but when you put it all together, you take a look at the entire week, losing off the tee and gaining in the other 3 stat categories. And the big reason for that, and it's not even like he's losing terribly, like he's about a neutral. So you don't want to crucify him or anything like that, but he's a 30% birdie rate for the entire week. And that is just unacceptable. He's been getting into pot bunkers. He's had some doubles because of getting a little bit out of line. And if it weren't for that, he would be much, much higher up the leaderboard. And, with the course history, him having that second place finish last year, also nearly won the US Open a few weeks back, was in contention for most of that week. On top of that, too, is also in the top 20, top 25 is last month on the PGA Tour. Consistently been playing Adam Scott level golf over the last few months. And I think at 69.5 that it was a bit disrespectful. In fact, if you take a look at my projections, they grade out really well on an Adam Scott this week. And then even other sites, like I like to look at like Data Golf, because they do all of theirs just based on their modeling, and they stick to their guns. Like they post their own projections, which I like. Other sites can't really say that. It's more like the group think. They all end up posting the same stuff, it feels like. But they're really, really high at Adam Scott at this event. In fact, like he's up there with like O'Bear, Rory McIlroy when it comes to their point projections for tomorrow, which I'm not nearly as high on Adam Scott as some of these other sites maybe, but if they're that high on him, right, that's at least something to consider. Is that a lot of other people are even, higher on his prospects than I am. But even without that, I still think he's a solid play for Sunday as well. So kind of just like being the turtle versus the hare, right? He's not going out there and shooting -6, -7 and drawing all those eyeballs, but he's sitting at T35 as well. He made the cut, started to slightly move up the leaderboard as the week has gone on. So give me a little bit of Adam Scott at 69.5. So that was the first prop that I really got to. And there are a few other unders on strokes that I looked at. One other that I've already mixed in. I'm kind of conflicted on whether I want to give you guys a double under slip, right? A 2.75x slip where we go with 2 unders on strokes, or if I potentially tell you about some of the fades that I'm looking at. And I think the best way to do it would be to give you guys a fade. Not so much because I think it's like the best ROI slip. I think they're all pretty comparable at the end of the day. But the reason why I do that is we can go through more categories and kind of give you guys the other side of the conditions too. Because remember, it's Sunday and it's difficult. And holes like 3, which is a par 5, is really hard to birdie. I mean, it's 600 yards, and hitting a wedge with that kind of a shelf, it's like so tiny. It's like you'd be almost a fool to try and hit it close to it back there. So I don't think you're going to see nearly as many birdies at that sort of hole. 5, you'll still see some birdies at. But overall, there's some unders on birdies that I think make sense. And the one that I'll give on here is probably my favorite, would be this under on Padraig Harrington. And to go back to the averages, average today was 3.26 per round. So obviously not a course where you're making like 4 or 5 birdies per round very often. And when you're Padraig Harrington, who did just come off a senior tour major, so I guess that's good form, right? But you're talking about a senior tour player at the end of the day. I don't expect him to go over that average very often. I mean, at this stage of his career, he's a well below average player when you're comparing him to PGA Tour players. Even DP World Tour players, he's an average to slightly below average player. So if I think the birdie average is going to be about 3.5 per round, then he would project solidly under this sort of number. And when you take a look at the sports books, they don't have an exact line for Harrington, but what they do have are other players like Antoine Rosner. They have a lot of like just regular PGA Tour players or DP World Tour guys like Alejandro Del Rey. Like they have a few of them on sites like DraftKings at even money or like -120 towards the over at 3.5. So you'd have to think of Harrington, who, as I said, no diss towards the old guys in chat, but the talent level starts to drop off when you get over 50. Let's be honest. So 3.5 birdies at the field average, I'll take that sort of a fade. And the thing that really hammered it home for me is when I looked at the shots gained metrics this week, And if I could spell his name right, it'd make it easier to find him on here. But he's losing off the tee, and he's only gained 0.7 strokes on approach so far. So not really doing anything well. The off the tee makes sense at a golf course that's long, right? He's actually, I don't want to say he's that short off the tee. He's not, but he's not an elite tier bomber, and he's not accurate at all. Like, he sprays it all over the place because he swings like a madman at this age. Super long for the senior tour guys, but about average length out here. And you can see for the week, he's only hit 43% of his fairways. So that's why I would say that I think he's a decent fade at that 3.5 mark. But you also have some guys on here, just like there were some other guys at 69.5 strokes that I'm taking further under. There are some guys at 4 birdies on the board. There's not a whole lot of 3.5s on here, right? So Harrington, in fact, the only 3.5 that we could look at for an under. But there are some guys with the push equity at 4 that on DraftKings are juiced towards the over, but they're below average birdie makers in this kind of field that should not be at 4 birdies. Because, for example, right, if I think the average is going to be about 3.5 and somebody on this list is like number 125 or something in the birdie or better percentage list, I'm definitely not hinting at anyone in particular, but yeah, somebody that would be at, let's say, number 125 on the birdie list this year probably shouldn't be at 4 birdies. And even if he is at 4 birdies, maybe it's not an egregious line because of the sportsbook line odds, but it's still a solid under because of the push equity we're getting at 4, because there's still a really good chance it goes under. Just have a slightly worse than average round. And that's how you go under that sort of 4 line. And if you're a below average birdie maker, and this is an elite tier field. I mean, you got Justin Thomas, you got all the elite tier guys, like the mid tier guys in this field too, elite tier DP World Tour guys mixing in as well. This isn't a pushover field. This isn't some fall series event where, if you're a below average birdie maker, like your regular PGA Tour guy is going to be projecting for well above the average. This is a borderline major championship level field. So that's why somebody that ranks that low in the rankings would be a pretty obvious under, in my opinion. But the ones that we're going to take here for the live stream will be these 2. Of course, guys, for every single piece of exposure that I'm playing for any given slate, you guys can find that on my Patreon page. You can find that via the link down below. $15 a month will give you guys access to the prop tier. On there is where you can get access to the spreadsheets. It'll give you guys all of the stat averages for these given rounds, also weather reports as well, giving you an idea of exactly course conditions, as well as my prop slips and all the reasoning behind it too. So helping you guys become a better of golf, teaching you what to look for in your process, all over there on the Patreon too. So we're going to go through some matchups next after I go through any specific bets or deep dives that you've got for me in the chat. But let's see what we got going on down there. You got looks like some real fancy whiskey, I'm guessing, huh? I can't even begin to try and pronounce that name. So I'm assuming it's well above my pay grade if I haven't seen it before. So cheers to you, man. Can you be special and ask a non-prop question? You absolutely can. You said, with 0% fits in week long, do you go overexposed in showdown for the FOMO of him winning? I kind of do that at times. It's a little bit of a cop-out move, so I don't always think it's the best idea. But I mean, if you have 0%, he's grading out for you in your process really well. So that's the key component, right? Is if your process is still putting you onto a Fitzpatrick, then maybe you bump up the exposure just a little bit because you have 0% for main slate, but don't force it, right? Don't go like, oh, if he wins, I'm screwed from a main slate exposure. Like, it's just going to completely bone me over. Don't make that the reason for why you're getting to that sort of play. But if that's the reason why you're adding like a couple extra percentage points to your max exposure level, then I don't think that's the worst idea at all. So not crazy, Nick. And yeah, don't be shy at all about those questions. As long as they're within the realm of reason, we're definitely willing to go over them here. You need Clan to get hot this last round. That'd be nice, man. I just want to see him play well. I don't have much exposure on him this week, but obviously somebody that's close to me, I want to see him kind of get over the monkey on his back. It feels like there's been one on him for his last 3 starts, has not played to the level that he's used to. So I'm expecting that to happen sooner rather than later. And when it does, you probably want to be there. He's an unbelievably talented kid. What do I think about Fitzpatrick for the under 68.5? That is plus money. So if it's plus money, I'd be a lot more willing to take it. On sportsbooks, I believe he's at 68.5. Like, let's see on the pick'em sites. I think he was at that number in even money, if memory serves me correctly. So what did he bump up to 69 strokes? So yeah, with the plus 100 odds, I don't know if it's my favorite bet. Like, if you're getting plus 110, right? You're actually getting some juice involved with that plus number. I might be a little bit more willing to take it. As is, if I had access to the sports books and the pick'em sites, I'd be much more willing to take the under at 69 just because you get the push equity at that number. And, plus 100 odds, like sure, it's plus money, but it's essentially like a minus 105 odds. I mean, you're as close to minus money as you can possibly get. That's why I prefer the push equity over getting that plus money odds. But I think you only have access to the sports books and whatnot. So if that's the case, I would at least lean under. I wouldn't be taking his over. That's for sure. What's going on, Joseph? Welcome on in. He said, is this Rory's tournament to lose? Well, he's in first place, so it doesn't surprise me that much. And I would say he's got a decent chance to win. That's for sure. He said, certainly Goddard-ups to lose. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah, wait, what are you saying? I thought you said that he's going to lose and he said he's his to lose. No, I don't know about that, Joe. I mean, the sportsbook odds would say otherwise, right? They'd say that Rory McIlroy is the pretty sizable favorite. I personally think that somebody else is going to win. I don't necessarily think that one of those two is going to punch their ticket just because it's such a difficult golf course, especially with all the pot bunkers. One bad tee shot's a double, triple bogey right there. It wouldn't surprise me if one of those two guys up top just completely implodes because of that sort of thing. And then the other one just kind of like coasts by at like even or minus one. In that case, somebody else from just a shot or two, three, maybe four shots back could easily steal this golf tournament. So I think that the clear favorite would be a Rory, but I'm not sure if Goddard would be the favorite either. Victor Perez for the under on birdies. I'm not against that one. I think it's a pretty good lean, actually. Thank you. You're new to the props. Don't want to get banned. You only get banned if you're a douchebag, and I know you're not a douchebag, Nick, so you're good. And there's hardly any. We've had a couple the last few days for whatever reason, and I have a sneaking suspicion it's the same person that's just making different accounts. So if that's the case, get a life, my dude. We don't want you in these live streams. You'd think you'd get the hint after like an account or two that maybe you should just go somewhere else and spend your time, but who knows? Kevin Yu under 69.5. So yeah, you did ask a question about Kevin Yu before, right? You're asking like, what are his chances about going under par? I mean, the shots gained metrics on him have been okay this week. They don't really stand out that much though. So like, I think there's better players at 69.5 that I'd personally take. He's been a little putter dependent for me. I mean, he's not always the most consistent putter on tour, and he's gained 4 strokes on the greens, but he has gained at least 3 strokes ball striking too. So I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever seen in terms of a stat profile, but it's also not the best stat profile. And like, that's why I'm on an Adam Scott, right? Adam Scott's got the course history and he's doing it in a slightly more sustainable fashion. And because he's not in the top 10 to start, he's also has no nerves compared to a Kevin Yu. But Kevin Yu, I mean, it's not just this week that he's played well. Kevin Yu's been playing well for the last month. So, if your narratives, I want to look for guys that are playing well, not only this week, but heading into this event, then I think he checks that box rather well. So I wouldn't be against that. What's going on, Ernie? Yeah, I saw your comment there before. I agree with you on all those things, by the way. So I just realized I went back to your comment. My bad there. What's going on? Salve said, yeah, you don't have access to all the betting lines in the UK. So yeah, at least you get Bet365. Bet365 doesn't have a massive selection, but they have really good odds. Like their lines makers aren't always the best at what they do. If you compare their odds to like DraftKings, FanDuel, almost all their time, they're off by a pretty significant amount. And the thing that I like about Bet365, if I had access to it, I would be abusing this, but they have lines that just make no sense. Like for example, they'll have all the elite tier guys at like 68.5 strokes, let's say, and then they'll have one random one at like 70.5 strokes, and the odds will be the same. Like it'll be minus 110 either direction or something like that. And it'll be like Aubert's at 70.5 and every other stud's at 68.5. It's just like the most obvious value at times on Bet365. I can't bet on it, but I always look at it occasionally just to kind of see what they have for the sportsbook odds. And boy, oh boy, are they off quite a bit. Of course, and you said cheers and thanks. Yeah, cheers to you, Joseph. Let's go through these matchups, though. So the first matchup I was looking at before we got on here was Keith Mitchell and Alex Smalley losing to Laurie Cantor. So Laurie Cantor's plus 190. Not sure what kind of odds I'm going to get on Hard Rock Bet. But the reason why I was looking at that one is Keith Mitchell's been a little putter dependent this week. So I'll show you that to begin. Over the first 3 days has gained 3.6 strokes into the positive. Let's bring up Alex Smalley next. So Alex Smalley has also been putter dependent, gained about 5 strokes. And then when we go to Laurie Cantor on the other side of things, He's gained about 5 strokes approach play, but has actually lost strokes putting for the week. So you've got yourselves a ball striker in Laurie Cantor going against 2 people that have been luck sacking it with the flat stick all week. Give me the ball striker. Give me the more sustainable stat profile, especially when it's somebody that is the most plus money player in this group. Now, I'm thinking Hard Rock Bet might give me a slightly better number on Cantor than what I'm getting here on DraftKings, because plus 190 does not feel like the best number. Like, I think plus 200 or more is where it becomes a fair bet, or maybe like a plus EV bet that you guys want to mix in. I'd have to double check my actual projections to give you the exact number, but let me see what I have on Hard Rock Bet. They were starting to post these matchups just before I got on live stream here, so maybe we can see. Yeah, they don't have all of them up quite yet. As you can see on, I was going to show you my screen, but you probably won't be able to see it with the glare. But they have 2 whole matchups up so far for the 2-ball market. When they get that posted, if he's at least plus 200 odds, there's a really good chance I'll be playing that Laurie Cantor prop. Next up, you got Taylor versus Wallace and Perry. That's probably a stay away from me. And I didn't have enough time to go through the entire board, so we're going to be line shopping this live real quick to see if there's anything that really makes sense. Justin Rose has good ball striking stats, so I guess we could look at that one. Michael Kim is the favorite, kind of feels sketchy. I mean, I know he's going against Rose and Forrest, so not necessarily a stud group. He does have the ball striking stats to boot as well, so I guess that has something that he's going for him. But let's look at Grant Forrest. So Grant Forrest, more of gains across the board for him. And then Justin Rose, just to show you guys that one, about a similar kind of stat profile to Michael Kim for the entire event. But today in particular, he gained over 2 strokes on approach alone. So I like that momentum for him. Now, is he worth taking at, what is he, plus 160 odds? Probably not, I would say. If he was like plus 180 odds, I would be looking at that one a little bit more seriously. Let's look at Fleetwood versus Harman and Echeverria. I would say that Harman would be the one that I'd mainly be looking at there. I mean, never going to bet a plus 100 Fleetwood. I mean, you could be going against geriatric people, and I still wouldn't be looking at that. But Brian Harman at a links-style golf course, at a golf course that he's played well at in the past, he had a horrible day today. So that's what I guess you'd have to get over with Brian Harman. In fact, I was looking at his under 69.5 strokes, but I didn't play it because of how he played today. He lost over 3 strokes on approach, which you could chalk up to just having a bad round. Sometimes that happens with these guys. They wake up on the wrong side of the bed, sore back. Who knows? Could be a million different things. Could have had a headache out there for all we know. And that could have really impacted how he played. But normally a great links player, I mean, elite tier course history, if you take a look at it, just top 25 machine at the Scottish Open, that feels like the kind of spot that we could take for a matchup. And the odds are plus 200, so we are starting to get into that range where I think it's a fair bet. Have to see what I can get on Hard Rock Bet, though, but let's throw that into the shopping cart for now. Next up, we got Valimaki versus Nakajima and Smiley. Kind of like myself some Nakajima, especially with the ball striking stats. Let's see how Valimaki's doing. I guess that would be the determining factor. Valimaki's playing pretty well. Let me show you Kita's stats. I mean, Kita for the week, actually, that's only round 3, so let's actually go back, take a look at the other guys. So for the week, Kita Nakajima has gained just under 6 strokes with the ball striking stats. We got to go back to Valimaki, and then Elvis Smiley is the other one we want to look at. So 1 second here, guys. Ooh, let's go with Elvis Smiley first. I guess Elvis might be the easier way to get to it. He's lost strokes on approach this week. He's also gained 1.5 strokes off the tee. And then we want to take a look at Sammy Valimaki, who Wacky Valimaki, as some people would call him, has lost strokes off the tee and he's gained 0.6 on approach. I mean, that could be a spot, but the plus 160 odds, again, just feels kind of skimpy. That's another one where I'm probably looking at like plus 180 or more before I would bet that personally. But I do think that even like the plus 160 is probably a fair number. I just don't necessarily think it's value at this point. Hall at plus 200 is kind of tempting, but he is going against Xander with elite of the elite level course history. A win here, 2nd place finish at this golf course makes that one a little bit tougher to want to play. Let's look at Marcel Seam, one of my favorite players on the DP World Tour. He's lost on he's about neutral in all 4 categories. Is pretty much what we're seeing there. Let's look at the other 2. Are they exploitable? Because if they are, I guess we could take it. McNeely at a links course, never going to be a world killer. Shots gained metrics and over him are pretty balanced. He's been decent ball striking too, so maybe not as exploitable as what I was hoping for. But let's look at Gsluke. That could potentially be somebody that we can cross off there and would make this slightly better odds. Let's see if I can get it out of the way. So he's gained off the tee, gained on approach, and then, yeah, I mean, very flat stat profile. One stroke ball striking, about a neutral in the 2 short game categories. Yeah, that's going to be a stay away spot for me, even though I love Yassim. Not that much that wants to get us onto you as a bet. Pendrith versus Colley and McCarty. It doesn't really stand out. I guess maybe like a Colley, but Colley hasn't had the best week. So, yeah, the form, especially with the 6 shots gained to putting, that's just a massive no thank you. In fact, maybe we could attack Colley. That 6 shots gained to putting is just, he's not playing that well. I guess it would be Pendrith and McCarty. McCarty also feels like he's been putter dependent. Let's see if that's backed up. Not really. He's actually been a decent gainer across the board. And then, I mean, the Pendrith is plus 150 though. So I'm not 100% sure I want to get there. He's also been gaining across the board. He's been very consistent. I just don't think he should be plus 150, right? That's just not good enough odds to bet. He probably should be the favorite. McCarty, though, at plus 210, like to go back to that one, he had the same kind of stat profile as Pendrith, but he's the whole way at plus 210. And then to go to the Colley here too, right? He's kind of sucking up some of those odds, and he's gained 6 strokes putting this week. Put it this way, if I can get at least plus 220 on McCarty, I will enter it right away. But even that plus 210 right now, I think is worthy of at least a half unit sprinkle. I don't think it's like enough value where I'm putting a whole unit on a plus 200 prop, but probably like a half unit sprinkle on that plus 210. If it's plus 220, plus 225 or more, maybe that's when we consider going to the full unit bet on that one. Let's see. Burns, Connor, Bridgman. I mean, in a vacuum, Corey Connors would be a really good play. What I'll say about Connors is I was worried about him heading into this week. He was dealing with a wrist injury, which had him withdraw from an event. Also had to withdraw from the major championship the next week. Never even got to tee it up. So, you knew it was legit, right? If you withdraw from a major championship, it's not just like oh, my wrist kind of hurts kind of thing. It's like, okay, I legit cannot play. But I was worried about it on Thursday, Friday. Like, oh, is he going to withdraw? Is he going to show any signs of it? Not really with Corey Connors. So to show you guys those stats, and I think in general, he's a decent play for round 4. But for the week, he's gained off the tee. He's lost a few strokes on approach. So that could be a little bit better. But every category is within reason. It's all within like 2 strokes of the positive. And when we go round by round, it's been something different every day. Like the first round, his approach play was by far the worst. The second round, it was the around the green play that held him back. Today was also the around the green play that held him back. Into chipping, not something I'm worried about with a wrist injury, right? You would think it'd be like the off the tee play that would be the most impacted. And he's gained 2.5 strokes off the tee this week. And that's only with hitting 50% of the fairways. So what that tells us, he's only hitting about 7 fairways per round. Is even then, that means he's hitting the ball longer than everyone else, right? Because hitting 7 fairways is not going to gain you 0.8, 0.9 shots gained off the tee per round. Hitting the ball an extra 25 to 30 yards further than everyone else is how you generate that sort of shots gained off the tee edge. So yeah, if he's hitting the ball long, not that worried about it. And honestly, this approach play being -2, like the last 2 days haven't been that bad. Like he was neutral. Yeah, he lost 0.6 strokes today. Like it's really not the worst I've seen. And if we go back to it, these greens regulation numbers are decent. He only hit 10 round 3, so that could have been better. Round 2, he hit 13 greens, and then round 1, he hit 13 greens regulation. That doesn't seem like somebody that's dealing with a wrist injury. So to kind of bring it back to the matchups, Sam Burns had a good ball striking day today as well. So I don't know if we can completely sleep on him. But Bridgman, let me see if the numbers back this up. I know he had one good ball striking day. I think it was like round 2 or something. But for the week, yeah, I mean, today in particular, he lost 3 strokes approach. Yeah, tough scene. Round 2, though, is when he had that ball striking day. And then round 1, he also lost strokes with the ball striking. So yeah, 2 of the 3 rounds has been dog shit. So I'm not that scared of Bridgman there at that plus 240. I don't know if the plus 150 is good enough for me to bet this, because this is another spot where it feels like they're taxing Like to have one guy plus 140, one guy plus 150 just feels like they're squeezing you a little bit there. Plus 160 or more is likely where I would start to bet something like Corey Connors. But whether it's in this market, maybe the round strokes on prize picks, like that could be another way to potentially target Corey Connors. I just think that he's being treated like he's like still injured or something. And, now that we're 4 rounds into an event and his form hasn't fallen off that much, like I think that he's at least worthy of considering for the market for tomorrow. Let's keep going through this though. So it's Hovland, Langas, Sullivan. That's probably a no thank you. I mean, Hovland should be the favorite, but are we going to play him at minus 105? I think not in a 3-ball format. I guess we could look at Langas. Langasco's good course history here. So he, for whatever reason, seems to really putt well at the Renaissance Club. And this year, if we go to all 4 rounds or all 3 rounds so far, he's done most of his damage with the putter, which for some players would be like a massive red flag. Not so much with Romain because of how he plays at this golf course. And let's look at the 3rd round in particular. So 3rd round, he did lose off the tee, but gained 1.7 on approach. And he had by far his best putting day today, which is a slight red flag. Like it wasn't a red flag over the entire event. But the fact that he gained 2.4 of his 2.6 shots gained to putting today is slightly more concerning. So yeah, let's not take Langas there. It's just maybe pushing it a little bit much there. You're on Fitz, me too, man. I hope he can make a push to win. And you're asking like in general who I think could win. So yeah, if you're asking outside of the top 2 like people who I think could like challenge them, shots gained wise, Ludwig Aubert is probably the best prospect. And the reason why is if we take a look at these right 2 categories, around the green and the putting, what you'll see is that with a lot of these chasers is that they're too short game dependent. And the short game, of course, is around the green and putting. When you add up like Wyndham, for example, it's like 10 shots gained. Jake Knapp, for example, has gained like 10 shots gained to putting alone. A player like Chris Goddard, 7.5 strokes. A McIlroy, like 8.5 strokes. I hope Fitzpatrick can do it. He's at -9, so he's close enough to really do so. But if I was just looking at the stats and trying to tell you like, oh, who could pop on Sunday, it's Aubert, because Aubert has gained ball striking this week. He's just been okay with the putter. 2 shots gained is solid, but it's not like he's carrying his game with his short game. And every single round so far, especially today, he had like 3 blow-up holes where one he made a triple on, one he made a bogey. It could have easily been a double or worse, though, based on what happened to him off the tee. He was like up against the face in a pot bunker, like 230 yards out or some shit. I mean, it was just like he pulled off a miracle Houdiniac just to get out of there with a bogey. And even despite that, he's gained a whole bunch of strokes ball striking this week. And it's not even just the round 3 stuff. Like you look at round 3, he gained on approach despite all that shit happening to him. He still only lost. And I say only because truly impressive that he only lost a stroke to the field despite all of the weird stuff that happened to him. And by the way, he gained on approach today, hitting a ball out of bounds with his approach shot. It's not off the tee. Like a lot of times, right, you drive the ball out of bounds. He hit his approach shot out of bounds, and yet in round 3, he still gained strokes on approach to the field. So I'm extremely high on his chances. He normally has 1 blow-up hole per event or blow-up round even per event. That's just kind of like the Ludwig Aubert way. He's done it on Sundays a lot, right? He's been in contention, been in the final group, and gotten a whole lot of flack for doing so. Now that he's gone that out of his system, though, maybe this is the spot where he makes a Sunday resurgence. Or, of course, maybe it's the time where he has 2 stinkers in a row. I'd say that both could happen. Both are within the range of outcomes. But based on the stat profile and outside of the few mistakes that he made, he was the sharpest player towards the top end of the board. It's just that his mistakes were absolutely catastrophic. He had the triple bogey. I forget which hole it was. I think it might have been like 8 or something where he was against the lip of the bunker. Just really unlucky stuff that sometimes you can't control for Luddy. And what goes against you one day, a lot of times can help you out the next. So if he gets some run good for Sunday, watch out. Could be a win. Perry under strokes if they have it. I don't think they have him up there, but yeah, if they had him at like 70 strokes, man, I would be there with you. I don't know if I'd take him at like the 69.5 that we got an Adam Scott at, but if we did get a slightly softer line, I could say, I mean, he gained a bunch on approach, bro. So he fits the stat profile that we want. Yeah, I'm hoping for Fitz as well. That would certainly be nice. What's going on, Bo? Who's a cat that's a couple under that could do some damage? So By a couple under, I'm assuming you mean for DFS, right? In terms of a chaser. Let's see. I'll give you one of my favorites. Nikolai Højgaard, but he's probably too close to the top to be like a couple under par. So yeah, T15. I don't know if that qualifies as just a couple under. John Perry, shout out to LSU Nick on that call. He had a really good ball striking day, so maybe you could consider him. But if we're looking even further down the board, or maybe for somebody else that I can call out and not take Nick's idea, right? Because Nick, great idea there, but I got to think for myself at times too. Maybe Justin Rose, I'd say. Justin Rose is here at -4. He gained 2 strokes on approach. He plays well at links courses. And to this point of the week, he's yet to really gain strokes putting. And you'd expect him on these fescue greens that he just lights up historically, like Open Championship putting. He's like one of the best players of all time. And putting at the Open Championship, same type of grass, of course, that they're playing on this week. Give me a little Justin Rose. He's I think a decent sleeper play. Don't be dissing your guy Elvis. Oh, I love Elvis. He's a lefty. You don't see that very often out there. But this stat profile, it's ugly. It's as ugly as it gets, unfortunately, Nick. But hey, great swing. Opposite of ugly swing. He's got a smooth one out there. Thoughts on Knapp for tomorrow? I like the ball striking stats. So he gained off the tee. He gained with his approach play in round number 3. So that would be a positive sign. However, if we go to the full event stuff, he's gained 10 strokes putting, which, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how unsustainable that is. So, I mean, if he can gain the ball striking again, like he did for round 3, then sure. Because, it wasn't unsustainable today. Today was a very sustainable kind of stat profile, but round 2, 4.5 shots gained putting. Round 1, 4.6 shots gained putting. He did it in back-to-back rounds in 1 and 2. I mean, that was even an outlier. That is hard to believe that he did that in back-to-back days. And now he's probably used up all of that luck. So if he's going to get there, it's going to have to be with the ball striking stats, which is far from impossible. He's that sort of player. Of course, Perry, and I think that's all we've got, guys. So we'll go through these last couple matchups. I think we have like another 20% of the board to round it off with. But any last second questions that you got, let me know now, because after we get through this board, we are going to wrap this thing up. But we got Scheffler versus Wrighton in Laporta. I'm not going to bet against the GOAT, Scotty Scheffler, but I'm also not going to bet on him on a line that's almost -200. When you have 3 players to play against it, or 2 players to play against, 3 in a group, that's just not something I'm willing to invest in. We've got Aubert versus Højgaard and Schmid. I really like Aubert heading into Sunday, but once again, +105 is just not the kind of number that you're going to see me dabbling on unless it's a very specific kind of circumstance. Next up, we have Berger, Stevens, and Syme. Connor Syme is due for some short game regression. What I mean by that is that he gained ball striking, but he lost strokes with the putting and around the green. So he's the kind of player that sets up well stat-wise heading into Sunday. You'd expect him to be better in the short game, and if he can continue to hit the ball like he has, not even just today, but the whole event, he's been pretty solid with the off-the-tee play and approach play. +260 is against Berger with, by the way, Berger's short game looks lost. So I do think he's exploitable. He is attackable, actually, in my opinion. Let's look at Sam Stevens. He would be the tiebreaker here. I honestly have no idea what this looks like. He lost across the board except the putter today. Let's look at the whole event, actually, just as together. Losing ball striking, gaining around the green, and then losing putting. Yeah, Connor Syme at +260. Now, the +260, Draftkings is just really scamming with the odds. But even that, I would play for a little half-unit sprinkle. You give me better than +260, though. And once again, that's when I start to up the units a little bit more. At Hard Rock Bet, sometimes they do give us those odds. So if they do, I'm going to oblige with some extra exposure. They've got Clan and Kuvra on the same group. Gosh, that's like my super group right there. It's 2 of my favorite players in the field. One that I play golf with regularly, and then another that's my favorite player on the DP World Tour. Probably top 10 favorite players in the world now, just because of how much I like the kid's game. Oh boy, it'd be like choosing between my 2 favorite children right there. Not going to bet Henrik Norlander. I don't like him to begin with. But between those 2, I know neither one's playing well, so the shots gained metrics are pretty shitty on both, I'd imagine. Let's look at Luke first. So Luke, yeah, losing off the tee and with the putter. That's not a great sign. Let's look at Kuvra next. Kuvra was good rounds 1 and 2, but he gave it all away today. In fact, he went from well into the positive shots gained approach into well into the negative. probably go Kuvra just because I don't know how much links golf Luke plays. Definitely none down here in South Florida. And meanwhile, Kuvra plays it quite often and has had some success on links golf in his short career so far. That's probably another lean, I'd say. Holy shit, the disrespect on Whitnell is plus 400. Yeah, I'm not going to bet him or anything, but the disrespect is real on that one. Then you got English versus Tom Kim and Novak. English, by the way, has been dog shit at links style golf courses. So he could be attackable. Tom Kim, on the other hand, has elite tier course history around here. And Tom Kim, as Ernie was saying before, is hitting the ball well. Show you the stats. You can see that is certainly the case. He's gained 6.5 strokes approach. Could be another one to keep an eye on. Shout out to you, Ernie, by the way. That gave me the idea to line shop that. Let's look at Fitz versus Knapp and Penge. Definitely no Fitz at plus 130. That's just, no thanks. Now plus 190. I'm a little concerned about the putting stats there. And then the last one, we've got Rory versus Clark and Goddard. I mean, Rory should be the favorite, but he's dealing with some Sunday pressure. Has also been today he wasn't putter dependent, but rounds 1 and 2 he was really short game dependent compared to the ball striking performance that he had today. Wyndham Clark, though, same thing. He's been a short game demon all week. And then Chris Goddard up too. He's gained like 7.5 strokes between the around the green and the putter. So yeah, we're going to leave it to these matchups. And I would say that if you're getting these same kind of odds, that they're all half unit ones for me. Whatever sports books that you have access to, whether that's FanDuel, Bet365, Hard Rock Bet, like I have in South Florida, you can get slightly better numbers than any of these, though. Then, if it's only like 5 or 10 points more, maybe it's like a 0.6, a 0.75 unit bet. You start to get to the 20 more points, that sort of thing, is when I probably start to bet a whole unit bet on a lot of these different ones on here. So, Cantor with his ball striking, Brian Harman with his course history, Matt McCarty's ball striking, Corey Connors being slept on because of the injury, some short game regression first time. Same thing with a Tom Kim, right? Hitting the ball well, maybe some short game regression. And then the Coover one is maybe a bit of a homer play. I guess I'll preface it with that. But I'm not scared of Clanton at a link style course, at least at this stage of his career. And Kuvra is an absolute stud. So that's the reasoning for all of those ones. On my Patreon page, I will post the matchups that I end up entering myself and the unit size for what I take on Hard Rock Bet. But until I can see the exact odds that I'm going to be able to bet on, not going to be able to give you guys the exact exposure that I'm getting to. So just like the other slips that I'm entering on Prize Picks and Underdog for the Pick'em sites, check out the Patreon page for all of that exposure. Let's cap it off with any last second questions or deep dives that you may or may not have for me. If you don't have any, that's all right, and we'll cap it off there. But best of luck, guys, with every slip that you guys enter. I hope to see that you guys cash out on all of your exposure. Profitable day to end the week would be a good way to head into this major championship. And smash a like button if you guys haven't already as well. Help get the content out there to even more people. Help us grow the YouTube channel as well. And also subscribe so you guys don't miss any of the content for next week's events. He said, would I take the Rory free ball at plus 100? Nah, I wouldn't, man. I mean, I'm not a big fan of taking props when they get close to that plus 100 mark. Even if it's like a Scotty Scheffler, I mean, I guess if it was Scotty versus 2 scrubs, then yeah, sure. I would probably take him at that plus 100 mark. But Rory against those two, like they're not any pushovers. Like Wyndham Clark is, I mean, he's having a terrible year, but he's still like a top 25 player in the world, we'd say. And then Goddard's been playing just fantastic golf the entire week. Probably not on that one, but that's not so much me saying that I hate Rory for tomorrow, because I don't. I think he's trending the right direction with how he hit the ball well today. It's more so that the line and the sort of odds that are available just probably aren't the best for that sort of bet. But that's all I've got, guys. Let's see any JR props. So I will show you guys that board. Average was like 11.5 today. I would normally say like unders would make sense, but they have elite tier players on here. Like McIntyre is a top 25 player. So if the average was 11.5, maybe it goes up to like 11.75 per round. I do think it's going to go up, maybe even to 12 per round, let's say. I don't think that even if it goes up to 12, that this would be drastically off, though, because like a Rose is a below average GIR guy. You probably should be at 11.5. Justin Thomas, slightly above average. Same thing with McIntyre, right? Hence, they're at that kind of number. So at least personally, at least what they have here on the Prize Pick side, I don't think anything here is like drastically off. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, I looked at this board before, and the only prop I even remotely thought about entering when I looked at this was maybe a rose under on greens. And that wasn't the case that maybe it plays harder than what I expect. But until I have that sort of information and I see the course playing harder than I think, right, I wouldn't be entering this Justin Rose prop, because I think as is, it probably makes a whole lot of sense. Reason why I would stay away from like some of the 12s, like maybe there could be some partial value on a harder golf course or taking some of these other guys for unders. But when you're at an even number, like whether it's Scotty at 13, JT Pendrith at 12, whatever the case may be, the issue is that the ties and the pushes on a site like Prize Picks get punished crazily in terms of your ROI. So it's not like a lot of other sports books where it's a little bit more fair when you have a push and how they deal with your payout structure. They more than take it in half on a site like Prize Picks. So they fully take advantage where they can, which makes me try and stay away from those even number props a little bit more. Of course, Kathleen, and of course, Sava. Let's have ourselves a slate, and I'll see you guys for all the content next week.